Welcome back, everybody. I'm delighted to have been asked to chair this session because it's not something I've ever done before, and I worry that I'm not going to be able to do it as skillfully as Gilly, who's had lots of practice. I've actually asked Anne Davison to do the timing for me, so I'm not concentrating on the timing and what's being said and the chat. So I'm delighted to introduce the next resolution, which is the pressures on parents of young children and the use of electronic tablets. And it's very timely because this week, as many of you will have heard, the Princess of Wales has been talking about what she calls screen overload for young children and the impact this is having on parents and families. So I can't think of two better qualified people to present and second this resolution, Gilly and Adele Gardner, both of whom have a background in education. In Gilly's case, health and social care education, running her own company in the past, and Adele Gardner, who has a Master of Education focused on psychology and the education, the psychology of education, and who is part of the Health and Wellbeing Network, acting as a coach. So I'm going to hand over to Gilly to propose the resolution.
Thank you very much, Gail. I'm delighted to be proposing this resolution titled Pressures on Parents of Young Children and the Use of Electronic Tablets. So the text of the resolution is: National Council of Women, Great Britain, in conference assembled, notes with concern the increasing pressures on parents of young children in managing the use of electronic tablets and other digital devices. While these technologies can offer educational benefits, their overuse can negatively affect children's well-being and development and place additional strain on parents seeking to set healthy boundaries. We affirm the importance of relationship-based parenting skills as the foundation for children's emotional, social, and cognitive development, and recognize that many parents need accessible, timely, and skilled support to meet these challenges. The government wants more children to reach their developmental and educational goals, and it wants to reduce tension in schools and within communities. Relationship-based for parents in the vital early years can positively contribute to this goal and contribute to reduced school exclusions and poor behaviour. So we welcome the government's recent funding for family hubs as a step in the right direction, but note that this provision does not go far enough to ensure that all families, especially those at risk, receive the specialist, well-trained and adequately resourced support that they require. So we therefore call on the government to expand funding beyond family hubs to ensure nationwide equitable access to family support services. Secondly, to invest in the training and retention of skilled staff to be able to deliver evidence-based relationship-focused parenting support. And thirdly, to provide public information and guidance to help parents navigate the challenges of children's screen use in a balanced and developmentally informed way. So the supporting rationale for this resolution is that we recognise the pressures on parents in raising children, but were shocked to discover the true extent of the use of electronic tablets. In a study published last year and based on fieldwork conducted in 2023, Ofcom reported that half of 3 to 4-year-olds use messaging or voice apps, and 32% of parents of 5 to 7-year-olds who use social media say their child uses this independently. The study also found that a third of parents of 3 to 4-year-olds already struggle to control screen time, And as you can imagine, it becomes even more difficult to control screen time as children get older, with 49%, nearly half of parents, struggling with 16 to 17-year-olds. Some 6 years ago, the WHO recommended that there should be no screen time for infants and a maximum of 1 hour a day for 2 to 4-year-olds, stressing that less is even better. The American Academy of Pediatrics also recommended recently that digital content should be avoided entirely up to the age of 18 months. For children 18 to 24 months, parents should choose only high quality content and should always view with their children. They went on to recommend that for children aged 2 to 5, the limit should be an hour a day of high quality content. And again, children should only watch with their carers and not be left to watch content on tablets on their own, so echoing the WHO recommendation. There's also research to show that the early use of tablets and electronic devices can have a detrimental effect on the development of the brain. Social skills and attention and responsiveness can be particularly adversely affected. Alongside this detrimental use of tablets with young children, there's evidence from numerous sources to show that relationship-based parenting is of great value in enabling young children to develop social skills and achieve their developmental goals. As Gail has mentioned, in the last few days, an essay by the Princess of Wales and Professor Robert Waldinger have stressed the dangers of us being physically present but mentally absent, unable to fully engage with people in front of us when we use electronic devices. So imagine the difference for young children. And Professor Sam Vass of the Baby Development Lab University in East London has shown that young brains need slow, predictable, repetitious content. Screens are far too fast for young brains. Books are far better, as the pace can be adapted to the individual child to a pace that their brain can manage. So research shows that parenting courses contribute to better regulated social children and less stressed, anxious adults, and it can be argued to better life chances for children. We welcome the government's new Best Start family hubs and their pledge of over 500 million to create up to, what, is that a time? Oh no, okay, sorry, I knew you were doing it. And to create up to 1,000 hubs across England by 2028. They plan a hub in every local authority by April next year and aim to support 500,000 children. But current funding is not sufficient to guarantee equitable access. That's why we urge the government to expand funding to invest in trained staff who can support parents and children. It can be argued that there's real economic benefit in making sure that children get the best start in life and can develop their social and relationship skills. For example, the Royal Foundation, again of the Prince and Princess of Wales, has published a business case which argues that a greater focus on early childhood could create a happier, more productive workforce because the parents are happier, and transform the health and well-being of the UK economy and society for generations to come. It would also create a happier, healthier workforce with less absenteeism and attrition born from poor well-being and mental health and reduced barriers to work. So providing support for parents and children in the early years and limiting the use of tablets and other electronic devices is a win-win for society and parents alike. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Gilly, for that. I'll now call on Adele to second the resolution.
I'm going to do my very best not to trip up the steps so that I get the first part right. Can I say thank you to everyone who is here today for inviting me to do this? I'm going to be brief because we haven't got much time. I take pleasure in seconding this resolution because helping parents to understand that relationship-based parenting is and how to implement it is likely to empower them to feel confident about supporting children to engage positively with technology. In seconding this resolution, I stand with NCWGB's call to government to fund family support services to levels which enable services to be rolled out nationally and effectively. Our children and those who parent them deserve nothing less. Thank you.
So thank you very much also to Adele. There is lots in there that I'm sure people will want to comment on, ask questions about. I mean, for my own part, I'm just enormously relieved that this is a problem that I didn't have to grapple with when my children were young and as I was bringing my children up. I feel enormous sympathy with parents today, because even if they might themselves want to control the screen time, there is so much peer pressure on them. And I think that's a significant problem. So, does anybody have any comments or questions they'd like to put?
No. Hi, my name's Lindsay Green. I'm actually here from Sir Rochester International, Great Britain and Ireland, but I'm actually speaking to you as a health visitor. As a health visitor, I know that 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds know how to use my smartwatch. They know how to find YouTube videos on their mum's phones. But I also think mums need help in deregulating how much of their phones that they use, because how many mums do you see walking down the street with their headphones in their ears, talking away to a person in the clouds and ignoring their baby sat in the pram? And we need to get back to that too. We need to get back to mums and dads communicating with their babies at ground level, and putting tablets away and phones away for mums and dads as well. And how many do you see sitting at a restaurant or a table and nobody's talking to each other? They are just sitting there looking at whatever they're looking at and nobody talks anymore. And people are worried because they don't know how to talk to anybody anymore. So I think we've got to go back even further. And I'm really worried about the hubs. As a Sure Start manager, years ago, we had a fantastic opportunity to help the people. And I think we're going to have a postcode lottery of which local authorities will put money into the hubs and which ones won't. And it's not going to be equal across the country. And that also worries me too. So this resolution is excellent, but I'm not sure it's going far enough.
We have a question here, Jackie Taylor.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd be really interested to understand the perspective of educators. I very much respect your perspective as a health visitor, but for me, I'd like to understand if these young children are actually going into school speech delayed or have some difficulty with social skills because of the devices that parents are giving them to use. So I think I'd be very interested in that. Thank you.
Just an observation, family observation. My nephew and his wife, their parents are very well, the children are very well behaved. But I did notice as they were in their high chairs, food was put in front of them, plus a cartoon or something to keep them at the table eating. And I couldn't quite understand that.
Ava Spall speaking. My godson's wife is a speech and language therapist working within the NHS in Bedfordshire. And she said it's quite noticeable that a lot of the children that are referred to her now their parents don't speak with them sufficiently for the children to pick up good speech skills, speaking skills. And even when they're in the waiting room, the children are being ignored and mum or dad or whoever's with them, is on the phone. And she's now having to tell parents, if you want your child to be able to talk and to be understood, then you need to talk with your child. It's quite simple, really.
Any more questions or comments? We have one.
Are we on? No. Hello? There we go. Can I just say I've got first-hand knowledge through my work and also through being involved with a young family in Kendal, but my work was within Tameside and Oldham, which are not the poshest of areas. Just to say that I have seen over the years mums who do not spend time with their children talking to them and have used the television in the past and now phones, and they give their children the phone because it keeps them occupied. They don't talk to them. These children, and I know somebody who is a school teacher in one of our local schools, they're coming into school and they can't speak properly, they can't eat properly, and they have to learn, by what they are shown in school. There are fortunately our nurseries around, and I really would welcome Sure Start coming back, and if the hubs are the alternative. Because I saw a big change in what went on in Sure Start years ago. So it's not actually just the phones that are the problem, it's the parents that are the problem. And you've got to get through to these young mums, nor not so young mums, who are repeatedly, through one child, two child, three children, doing the same practice. So it's educating the mothers again. But you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And a lot of them know the answers, but they don't put it into practice because it's far easier to give your child a phone. And the phones have made life a lot simpler for them, but it's not doing the children any good at all. And I feel so sorry for our schools that are having more, and health, actually speech and language therapists, which is what my daughter is. So, I know all this from lots of different directions. So yes, it is a big problem, but how do you actually overcome it?
While the microphone's being passed to the next person who's asking a question, I have a comment on the chat. So it's from Jan Levenhall, who is an NCW member, and she says, just curious as to why the resolution concentrates on tablets. The issue is all electronic devices. And she adds that she's just referring to the wording of the resolution.
Can Gilly Rogers, sorry Mina, I just jumped in. I think that's an interesting point, and I think perhaps we just need to adjust that. I think we do say tablets and phones, but I just wanted to pick up the point that Delphine was making and Avis was making about parents' behaviour, and I think that's why in this resolution we've linked the issues, Adele will comment on this as well, I'm sure, of the shocking use of electronic tablets and phones and other electronic devices with developing parenting skills. When I was working, I did a lot of work with the Solihull approach, which you might know of, and I was really struck by the impact that Sure Start centres had, but their parenting skills courses, which were all based on attachment theory, the importance of interactions between parents and children, the importance of responding to your child, all of those things that are so fundamental probably to all of us in the room here, but are being lost. And I think it's shocking how easily these things can be lost and how important it is that we try to raise the alarm, if you like, and pull back on that. So just a comment.
We have a question on that table over there. Kate Wallace. Oh, Mina, you come first. Sorry.
No worries. Hello, Mina speaking here. I am sharing just an observation from the perspective of refugees and asylum seekers who I have been lived with them for almost a year and a half. And there we have these families who are in this country with no language skills, especially when it comes to English. So their kids are also starting going to school, but then they don't know the language. The only way we could help those kids to learn the language, we could hand them over phones or tablets to watch. The very easiest thing that they could watch was Peppa Pig, where they would learn the language from it. But then in a long term, we saw the kids learn the language, but then a distance has been created between the parents and the kids, because the parents couldn't work on their language skills, and the kids were being in 2-3 parts to learn the language, where the school is there, and then the hotel environment, and then the cartoons or whatever they were watching, and then the kids has stopped talking to the family members because they don't know anymore their native language, or they don't understand the way that mother talks to them. So it was like an observation on why I'm sharing this with, maybe there are organizations working with refugees and asylum seekers. This is the most important thing, that the connection between the families are being just because we need to know the language, otherwise we cannot go ahead with our lives. So that is where the connection, especially between the mother and the kids, are being just stopped. And she is being in that house to help the kids to do the laundry, to provide them food, and then to prepare them for school or do the drop-off and pick-up. That was the whole thing a mother could do, because there was no other connection of understanding between them. So it was just something that I have seen during my stay at the hotel. So yeah, thank you.
Adele?
Can I pick
And
up on what-
after Adele, then can we go to Kate Wallace, I think, who had her hand up.
Jess said? And also what really we've been discussing all morning, because in a way we've been discussing emotional regulation, haven't we? How people learn to address those things, and that ideally those things should be taught in the home. So if children don't learn good language skills, then it becomes very difficult for them to tell other people how they feel, and that emotional regulation. And if parents and children don't have access to a shared language, that also adds another layer of complexity. And what you were saying as well is mothers just being seen as somebody who cooks the meal, washes the clothes, does those things, that there's no discussion going on about how the mother feels, what her ambitions for her own life might be, all of those things, so how we close it down. I have also had some early bus rides into Bristol on a morning, and I see children and young people who are clearly from the same school because they have the same school uniform on, and they sit on the bus and they do not talk to each other. They are on their tablets. Now, that would not have happened when I was their age, because there were no tablets and we would have talked. So how we do that, and the importance of shared language and using language and enabling children to start nursery and to start school as competent language users seems very important. So thank you. I'm going to shut up.
Thank you very much. Kate Wallace.
Kate Wallace, Darlington branch. I'd just like to sort of point out to you, my son teaches, and he says, I'm afraid a lot of this has come from COVID. They have found such a difference in the behaviour of the children and the parents towards the teachers, towards children in general, you know, children to children. And the children, are much more badly behaved than they ever were. And again, like everybody is saying here, they don't talk to each other. They don't have phones in the classroom, but of course they've got them coming and going. And he was saying just the other week that it is really horrendous, the lack of language, the lack of sort of interaction between the children and the staff and all the staff, you know, the cleaning staff, the kitchen staff, everybody. And he said, you know, some of these MPs or whatever need to just go into schools and see what it's like now. He's in a secondary school, but he has a lot of friends in junior schools, and they're finding it just about impossible, I think, sometimes. So, you know, the parents can't always be to blame. They had to use all of this technology to get by during COVID. And so they had to find time for the children to use the stuff. They didn't have time for the children. So I think it's, you know, we have to support this, but it's how
Kate,
to do it.
I think I'm going to have to draw this to a close now, because our next contributor is waiting. But thank you all very much. And I think it's interesting to hear arguments in favour of digital devices, as well as those speaking against overuse of them. And I'm sure there's lots in that people will want to continue talking about over lunch later. So we're now moving on to the next part of the agenda, which is the... Oh, I beg your pardon. Moving us on too quickly. I told you I wasn't as skilled at this as Gilly. So I'm now going to throw this open to voting, both from the room and online. And just a reminder that only NCW members can vote. So can we have a show of hands, please, for the resolution? Do we have anybody who's voting against the resolution or abstaining? So, yes, I think that point was, Gilly acknowledged that point, and thank you for reminding me, Jenny. So I think that concludes this resolution, and thank you everybody. And I'm now going to hand back to Gilly, who will take things forward from here.